There is a particular kind of loneliness that comes from being misread as unapproachable. You enter a room with no intention beyond simply being present. And yet, conversations seem to pause slightly. People choose their words a little more carefully around you. And somewhere beneath the politeness, you sense a distance you never actually asked for. You have not raised your voice. You have not been unkind. And still, something about you seems to arrive in a room before you do. Why does presence alone sometimes create distance, without a single word being spoken? Why do some people seem to require an invisible permission before approaching you? One you never remember issuing. Before we explore this together, subscribe to this channel, where we uncover the hidden psychology behind everyday life. Picture a lantern burning brighter than most of the lanterns nearby, not through any effort to outshine them, simply because that is the nature of its particular flame. Others, accustomed to dimmer, more familiar light, sometimes hesitate before approaching it, uncertain whether its brightness invites warmth or simply demands distance. Is the lantern doing anything wrong by burning as brightly as it does? Or is the hesitation entirely about what the people nearby have learned to expect from smaller flames? Carl Jung believed that certain personalities carry an unusually strong presence, what he might have called a powerful expression of the self, showing through the persona with less filtering than most people are accustomed to encountering. This kind of presence is not aggression, and it is not arrogance. But it is often unmistakable, and unmistakable things tend to unsettle people who have spent their lives around quieter, more easily managed flames. What if the intimidation people feel around you has very little to do with anything threatening in your character, and far more to do with the simple fact that you are difficult to overlook? Here are 5 signs worth naming plainly, each one common among people whose presence tends to precede them, often without their full awareness of why. The first sign is unfiltered directness. You say what you mean, clearly, without excessive cushioning, and while this saves everyone time, it can also catch people off guard who are used to communication softened into vagueness. Why does honesty, offered plainly, sometimes feel more intense to others than it actually is? Because most people have grown accustomed to a slower, more indirect rhythm, and directness, however well-intentioned, can initially read as confrontation rather than simple clarity. The second sign is comfort with silence. You do not feel compelled to fill every pause in conversation. And this stillness, though perfectly natural to you, can feel evaluative to people who equate silence with judgment. Is your silence actually judgment? Rarely, but does it sometimes get interpreted that way, simply because so few people practice comfortable stillness themselves? Often, the third sign is visible self-possession, the quiet sense that you do not need constant reassurance or external validation to feel secure in a room. Alfred Adler believed that people who have not yet resolved their own private insecurities often feel unsettled around others who appear to have already done so, not because anything hostile is being communicated, but because that self-possession serves as an unintentional mirror to whatever remains unresolved in themselves. The fourth sign is the tendency to ask questions that go slightly deeper than expected, cutting quickly past small talk towards something more substantial. This habit, often born from genuine curiosity rather than any desire to unsettle anyone, can nonetheless feel intense to people who prefer to keep conversations comfortably surface level. Why does depth sometimes feel like exposure to someone unprepared for it? Because it asks for a kind of presence many people have not yet practiced offering. The fifth sign is an aura of competence that seems to arrive before you've actually proven anything: a natural composure, an assumed capability, a presence that suggests you already know how to handle whatever situation is in front of you. Jung might have said this reflects a strong, well-integrated persona, one confident enough in its own foundation that it does not need constant external permission to occupy space. Is that competence intimidating on purpose, Almost never. But does it register to some observers as something requiring caution regardless? Frequently. But here is the deeper question worth sitting with far longer than any single sign on this list. If none of these traits are actually unkind, why do they still create distance? And more importantly, is that distance something you are responsible for closing? Jung believed that much of what unsettles people in the presence of a strong personality is not actually about that personality at all. It is projection and encounter with someone who embodies a kind of self-assurance the observer has not yet developed in themselves. And rather than examining that gap honestly, it becomes easier to interpret the other person as intimidating instead. What if the discomfort people feel around you is less a verdict on your character, and more a mirror reflecting their own unfinished relationship with confidence? Picture the tree standing tall and fully formed at the edge of a clearing, its branches wide, its presence unmistakable against the open sky. Smaller, younger trees nearby, still finding their own shape, may seem to lean slightly away from it, less out of hostility than simple unfamiliarity with something so fully itself. Is the larger tree wrong for having grown so completely into its own form? Or is the distance simply what happens when something fully realized stands next to something still finding its footing? This is the turn worth making gently here. Recognizing yourself in these 5 signs is not evidence that something about you needs correcting. It may be evidence of something Jung called individuation, already well underway, a personality that has done real work integrating confidence, honesty, and self-possession into a coherent, unmistakable presence. Individuation of this kind rarely feels comfortable to the people still standing outside it, watching from a slight distance. But is that discomfort actually your responsibility to manage? Or is it simply the natural, temporary friction of being someone others have not yet learned how to stand beside? So how do you hold this presence without becoming cold or unreachable to the people genuinely worth connecting with? This is where the observer becomes essential, the quiet witness inside you, capable of noticing someone's hesitation, without immediately shrinking yourself to accommodate it. Not the part of you that dims your directness, apologizes for your stillness, or performs smallness simply to seem more approachable. The part that can simply notice, calmly, their distance may be about their own unfamiliarity, not about anything I need to change. Seneca often reminded himself that a person of genuine character need not perform softness simply to be more easily tolerated by others, since authentic strength, properly understood, requires no apology. Can you notice someone's initial hesitation around you and allow it to exist, patiently, without immediately concluding that you have done something wrong? Can you offer warmth without abandoning the very qualities that make your presence genuinely, unmistakably yours? And here is something worth noticing. If you look honestly, this particular dynamic, being met with initial distance before earning closeness, has likely repeated itself across many relationships, many rooms, many years. Why does life seem to place you, again and again, in situations that test whether you will shrink your presence to be more comfortably received, or hold it steady long enough for the right people to finally lean in? Jung believed that whatever remains unconscious in us tends to reappear in our lives as pattern, as recurring invitation, until it is finally met with understanding rather than apology. Perhaps this is not really about the specific people currently keeping their distance from you. Perhaps it is the newest version of an older question. Have you ever fully believed that your natural presence was something worth trusting, rather than something requiring constant softening to be acceptable? Viktor Frankl believed that between what happens to a person and how they respond, a space exists narrow, but entirely their own. You cannot control how quickly someone warms to a personality as fully formed as yours. But the space between their initial hesitation and your own response to it, whether to shrink or to remain steady, that space belongs entirely to you. So, what does holding this presence wisely actually look like in practice? Not something dramatic, not an aggressive insistence on taking up space regardless of context. It might look like allowing someone's initial caution to exist without immediately overcompensating to win their comfort. It might look like softening your delivery occasionally, not out of insecurity, but out of genuine consideration, while still keeping your honesty intact underneath it. It might look like choosing authenticity over the exhausting effort of making yourself smaller simply to be universally, immediately liked. It might look like recognizing which relationships are actually worth the patience required to let someone adjust to your presence, and which distances were never actually yours to close. None of this arrives with fanfare. Jung once suggested that people will do almost anything to avoid confronting a stronger reflection of what they themselves have not yet developed, and if that is true, then simply allowing your presence to remain fully yours, without apology, may already be a significant act of quiet courage. Return, for a moment, to the lantern, burning brightly among smaller, more familiar flames. Imagine holding it now, not dimmed for anyone's comfort, not extinguished to avoid intimidating a room, but simply carried honestly, exactly as bright as it has always naturally been. Does that make the lantern less considerate of the people around it? Or does it simply mean the light, from now on, is no longer apologizing for being real? And so we return to the question beneath all 5 signs, beneath every hesitation you've noticed in a room, every distance you never intended to create. What actually remains of you once you no longer measure your worth by how quickly you are able to put others at ease? What remains when your presence no longer requires shrinking in order to be considered acceptable? Jung offered an answer that has outlasted him by nearly a century. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Perhaps what intimidates people about you was never actually a flaw to correct. Perhaps it was simply a fully formed presence, still waiting for the world around it to catch up. If this resonated, subscribe to this channel and join us as we keep uncovering these hidden truths. Which of these 5 signs do you recognize most in yourself? Write it in the comments below, and let that lantern, wherever it burns in you, finally stop dimming itself for anyone else's comfort.